In a city teetering on the brink of chaos, the year 1741 dawned with whispers of unease threading through the air of New York. The morning breeze carried tales of rebellion, tales that filled the taverns and marketplaces with dread and fervor alike. For decades, the weight of oppression had borne down heavily on the shoulders of the African population, a simmering cauldron that now threatened to boil over. Chapter 1. Burning Embers. The night was thick with fog as Eliza paced the cramped quarters of the slave quarters behind her master's large brick house. The flickering light of a candle cast long shadows on the walls, echoing her internal turmoil. She was one of the few who dared to dream of freedom amid so many chains. Each day, under the watchful eye of her master, Mr. Prescott, the stain of slavery felt heavier, more suffocating. Little did she know, the ashes of rebellion had already begun to smolder in the hearts of many. On that fateful night, Fort George, the very embodiment of colonial power, fell prey to flames that licked at its wooden structure, roaring into the evening sky. Eliza felt a tremor of hope alongside the fear that had gripped the city. Among the enslaved, rumors had begun to swirl, of unity, of secret meetings in dim-lit corners, and of alliances forming between disparate souls determined to reclaim their dignity. Chapter 2. Whispers and Shadows. In the dead of night, voices muffled by caution gathered in a basement of a nearby tavern. There, a mix of enslaved and free black men and women huddled together, the air thick with an atmosphere of potential despair and uprising. At the forefront stood Gabriel, a man with a spark in his eye that ignited hope, even in the dimmest of hearts. "We are the oppressed," he proclaimed, his voice strong and defiant. "For every fire that consumes what is theirs, we shall light the flame of our freedom. Together we can rise up against the shackles that bind us." Eliza's heart raced as she listened. She didn't just hear a call to rebellion, she felt it resonate within her soul. The time for whispers was over, change was imminent. Chapter 3. Fear Unleashed. As fires spread through the city, so too did the fear of the white populace. News of the Black Rebellion infiltrated the minds of those who had long looked down upon their enslaved neighbors. Blinded by panic, many white citizens began to suspect their own shadows. The governor summoned an assembly of the landowners and merchants, their faces drawn tight with apprehension. "We must root out this conspiracy. The snakes in our midst must be crushed," he thundered, his voice echoing off the walls. Rumors circulated that Catholic priests were gathering the enslaved for a revolt, an insidious plot fueled by secret societies. The truth was more sinister, as the very notion of unity among the oppressed became a scapegoat for those in power to quell the unrest. Eliza and Gabriel felt the tension sharpening, like an arrow drawn taut, ready to snap. Chapter 4. The Storm Unleashed. As arrests began, innocents were swept up in the horror, a show of strength against a supposed insurrection. Neighbors turned on each other as paranoia seeped through the cracks of the cobblestone streets. Eliza watched in despair as her friends were taken, dragged away from the sarcasm of protest to the horrific abyss of retribution. In the night of a drenched Tuesday, as thunder rumbled above the horizon, Eliza felt the weight of history upon her. "We must come together tonight," she whispered to Gabriel. "This dread cannot hold us any longer." The rain fell in sheets, pattering against the rooftops like the drumming of a heartbeat. The group gathered again, determination etched in every face. "If we do not act now, we will be lost to the storm of fear they unleash," Gabriel urged, holding a crude map dotted with strategic points across the town. Then it happened. An inferno ignited again, this time in a warehouse rumored to store arms for the militia. It spread viciously, a wildfire of liberation and chaos intertwining. Chapter 5. A Tapestry of Truth. As the flames leapt higher, Eliza understood that a true conspiracy was unfolding, but not in the way the white citizens imagined. This was not merely a revolt of the oppressed, it was a tapestry woven from diverse threads, a coalition of the enslaved, free men and women, priests, and even some sympathetic white citizens willing to risk it all for justice. But their numbers were met with gruesome reprisals. The city spiraled into a terrorized state, a life snuffed out, a body hanging as a warning. Yet the flames continued to smolder, igniting within the hearts still beating for freedom. Epilogue, a history rewritten. Months passed after the uprising was quashed, a tragedy masked as conspiracy buried under the weight of fear. But Eliza remained undeterred, for she carried the spirit of rebellion within her, a flickering flame waiting to be reignited. Years later, the fires of New York faded into memory, but their embers lay deeply rooted in the hearts of a generation agitated for change. Eliza, like many others, emerged as a symbol of resistance, the quiet voice perched on the edge of history, waiting for the dawn of transformation. Their tale echoed through the streets of New York, a reminder that in the tapestry of human existence, even the most shrouded in darkness can find their light. The conspiracy may have been quelled, but the fire within the hearts of those who sought justice would not be extinguished. History was set not merely by victors, but also those who dared to resist. And thus, the shadows of the past continued to watch, waiting for the moment to rise once more.